Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. Eric, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good. Just got home from Vegas literally 20 minutes ago. It's now 7:05 a.m. Mountain Time. We're going to crank out this podcast, and I'm going to jump back in my truck and drive back up to Billings, Montana, 2-hour drive to catch a flight to Melbourne, Australia. So
come on now.
Running and gunning today, bro.
Man, it's wide open too. It's WrestleMania season. It feels like that more than ever as you and I are recording right now. Cody Rhodes is on Good Morning America. He is indeed the new world champion. I guess it's the Today Show, whatever it is, the NBC affiliate. You know that Cody Rhodes is there with the big gold belt around his waist. Boy, this felt like the story that would never end, and it finally did in dramatic fashion. But night after, we saw Jimmy, and we saw Jay, and we saw Solo, and we saw Cena, and we even saw the freaking Undertaker. It was a special night.
What was up with that? What was up with the Undertaker's got, like, all of a sudden he's got a hard on for Rock? I mean, that was weird.
I felt like that was the Stone Cold spot that they didn't get to pull off.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay.
I mean, even a text came out the day of the show when Triple H was reporting it. He posted it at 3:16, and everybody online put their tinfoil hats on, and the glass never broke. That's one prediction you and I got wrong. We both assumed, given the setting we saw in Chicago a few weeks ago, where the final boss was putting a beat down on Cody Rhodes in the rain. The way they framed up that tractor trailer, you and I felt for sure John Cena.
I wonder if something happened at the very end. I mean, that was just too perfect of a setup. It was too perfect of a setup.
I don't have any inside information, but the rumor and innuendo was that Rock and Austin have had more than a professional rivalry for quite a while. I mean, to the point where I was even told at WrestleMania 30, 10 years ago, if Rock wasn't coming out, or if Stone Cold wasn't coming out last, he wasn't coming out, sort of thing, when it was Hogan and Rock and Austin all together. So we'll see. Listen, who knows what's real? Who knows what's not? But I think Stone Cold was on his ranch playing with his cat when Cody Rhodes became the man. And good for him. Listen, it's rare that somebody, goes away and does their thing. And he had his fun a couple years ago, I guess, with Kevin Owens. And last night was all about Cody Rhodes. You see the baby faces, specifically Randy Orton and Sami Zayn, throwing him on their shoulders. It felt very WrestleMania 10 like. They asked him at the press conference if it reminded him of when Dusty first won the world title back in 81. And he said maybe it was just a happy accident. Maybe it was just it was kismet. It was the cosmic timing of the way things shake out. Man, it's a big exhale for Cody Rhodes. He has been after this for so long. What a great story. And now he's back. What do you make of the news that he finally finished the story as we were looking on YouTube and we see Mama Rhodes in the ring with Teal Margaret and Cody's father-in-law Otis, who just kicked out on cancer. I mean, it was a special night.
Look at Michelle. She's so happy.
Yes.
Cody's mom. That's so awesome. I woke up this morning and one of the first thoughts of my mind is, I wonder what's going through Cody's mind. I mean, trying to put myself in his shoes to imagine what it's like to feel what Cody feels having finished this story and all the things that he overcame, and the injury going back to last year, and leaving AEW, coming back to WWE. All the journey has been such a roller coaster, Cody, over the last couple of years, and even leading right into WrestleMania when there was some doubt, probably in Cody's mind as well as the rest of us, as to whether or not he was even going to get the chance.
Yeah.
To end this story the way he had dreamt, probably since he was a kid, about ending this story. It was in doubt. was in jeopardy. I mean, for us, maybe not internally, maybe internally, they always knew what they were going to do or what they wanted to do, just weren't quite sure how they were going to get there because the tumult and all the craziness that had been going on in WWE prior to Rock showing up, obviously. But I just wonder what it feels like. You know, I can only imagine what it felt like when he finally got his hand raised in front of that 75 or 77 or 72. How many thousands of people were there? I just wonder what that emotion felt like. What's going through his mind today?
It's got to be a little bit overwhelming, you know, when you have literally willed something into existence. I mean, he spoke this into existence. He called his shot, and now WWE's hotter than ever, and he's the top guy. I mean, they in this era, they made Roman Reigns. And the story of Roman Reigns is going to be interesting with the benefit of hindsight, because you can't tell that story without looking at the first several years where he was seemingly pushed down our throats. Nobody was about it. He's on camera for 10 seconds with Paul Heyman, and the audience decides they feel differently about it. And they begin the Bloodline story that carried us on the biggest wave of success financially the company ever had. And he became a real torchbearer for WWE in the process, because I felt like the main event represented eras, Eric. You said, hey, what's up with The Undertaker having a heart on? You know, they said right up front at the beginning of night one, Triple H welcomed us to the show and said, welcome to a new era. And I felt like that main event showed us a few eras. The Undertaker's era from the early 90s, and the Rock Attitude era from the late 90s and early 2000s. And then, you know, the entire John Cena era was represented with John Cena, and then the Roman era. And now seemingly Cody is the guy. This was a stretch of the guys who are the guy. And that's the reason I felt like that was probably Stone Cold's spot.
Yeah, you're right.
And I get why, for whatever reason, for a variety of reasons, I'm sure they didn't do anything with Hogan, but he did feel left out in the main event to me. Like, if this really is sort of the generations of WWE and the different eras of wrestling in WWE, like Hulk Hogan sitting in a box clapping would have been a cool visual for me. But, you know, I get that Hulk doesn't travel a bunch these days, and it is what it is.
No, and it was disappointing that we didn't see Hulk. It would have been a great nod, because I think people definitely look at Hulk. And, you know, Hulk has overcome so much physically, mentally, emotionally, and in terms of public relations. And I think the public is finally, to a large degree, you know, accepted the fact that Hulk made a mistake, said something horrible, bad reflection on him, certainly, and around him. I think people have kind of, I don't want to say they've forgiven, or excuse me, I don't want to say they've forgotten, but I do think to a large degree they have forgiven. And it would have been nice to see Hulk there, but you pointed it out, and I haven't talked to him. I've been running pretty hard myself. I haven't talked to too many people. My guess is the travel just would have got to him. He just isn't really capable of traveling a lot. Well, he's capable of it. He just doesn't want to do it. It's just too hard. But it would have been nice to see him there. But again, what a night for Cody, for Michelle, for Teal, the entire family. So happy for him. I would have liked to see Dustin at ringside. I put the offer out there to Tony Khan. I said, Tony, if you give Dustin the jet, let him sit at ringside, let him be there for his brothers, the end of the journey, and to celebrate with the rest of the family. I said, Tony, if you let him go and you send the jet to get him there and back, I'll quit. I'll lay off you for the next month. I'll give you a month off. Won't point out anything, won't talk about anything going on entire month. But clearly Tony didn't take me up on the offer. Really disappointed.
Well, Dustin was there in a box sitting next to Ricky Starks and a bunch of QT Marshall and a bunch of Cody's pals. But I'm with you. It would have been nice to have seen him on camera. And listen, I know we're going to talk about AEW at the end, but it sort of caught me off guard. Dustin Rhodes is getting a title shot against the AEW World Champion against another Samoan with the real name Joe this Wednesday night.
Irony, right?
What?
Coincidence? Maybe.
What?
I think not.
I mean, listen, I didn't know what to say. I mean, I, for one, really loved that story and wanted to tell that story at Ric Flair's last match about Dusty and Cody having won the NWA World Championship, but it eluded Dustin. We didn't get a chance to do that. I do think he's one of the best wrestlers to never hold the world title. It would be a cool moment. I've thought that from the beginning if he was one of the first or maybe the first AEW World Champion, but hey, maybe it could happen, but boy, I just did not see that coming. I did see something else coming on Wednesday. Yes, we are going to talk about that, but I thought we should talk about WrestleMania at least to start. We opened the show with Triple H welcoming us to a new era. This is indeed the first WrestleMania without Vince McMahon. And believe it or not, his trainer actually posted on social media, he being Vince McMahon's, about how sad it is that this is the first WrestleMania without Vince McMahon. That in and of itself is still a weird sentence, is it not?
It sure is. It's hard, but it was so cool on Friday, to see Shane in the audience, Stephanie there. I'm very happy to see that, but yeah, it does feel strange. And those, Hall of Fame pictures that you get once you get inducted to the Hall of Fame, it's a package that they send you home with eventually. No Vince McMahon in those pictures. It is weird, man. It's still settling in many ways.
It was weird even in the Bray Wyatt documentary that just got released over the last week or so. I had a chance to catch up and watch that, and boy, Vince McMahon's not in there either. Even the little puppet, like it never happened. Kind of surreal.
You think that? I wonder why. I mean, it does. I kind of understand it, but does it really matter? Is it really that necessary to erase people like that? Even Chris Benoit. I mean, I get it. Horrible thing happened, and people died, and it was about as horrible as it can get. But does erasing that history make it any better? I'm just not a big fan of erasing history of any kind. Don't think it serves a real purpose. I don't know. What do you think? Is it necessary?
I think they're all just trying to protect the stock price right now. I think, eventually when this is all settled, the legal wranglings are settled and justice is served, whatever that may look like, I think eventually they'll warm back up to that idea. I think right now everybody's being careful not to celebrate Vince McMahon. I think you can acknowledge him without celebrating him. And I think that's the double-edged sword that everybody's sort of carrying for now.
That makes sense.
They continually showed the weather, and people who sat in the crowd. I was not in the crowd, but I've heard from people who were in the crowd. They were stone cold frozen on Saturday night. And that's the reason they were so quiet. A day and night difference between the crowd vibe and feel. And a lot of that was based on the weather. We saw a wind chill in the high 40s, and guys are running around in their underwear wrestling. We saw this a few years ago, WrestleMania 29. I guess it was 11 years ago. When are we going to learn and stop having WrestleManias in the Northeast in the winter?
No shit, right? Outside in the Northeast, I mean, you don't know what you're going to get. What do you do? What if it's pouring down rain? What do you do?
It's a great question. I mean, we saw it a couple of years ago. They had like a tarp over the ring and it started to just fill with water and you were just waiting on that thing to spring a leak. But yeah, I mean, listen, I guess it's not going to be an issue in the very near future, but it sort of still shocks me that this is like a surprise. I mean, when I was asked on more than one occasion, are you going to WrestleMania? I'm like, in Philadelphia? Outside? I mean, it's subject to snow. It's Philly. The first,
like a week ago, there was a blizzard.
Yes.
In that area. I mean, a week ago, it's threading the needle a little close.
And they got earthquakes in New York now. I'm going to stay my happy ass in the South.
There's absolutely no reason now to go to New York. Now you throw in an earthquake on top of the rest of the shit show that's going on there.
Wow.
No reason to go to New York.
Let's talk about the first match on the show. It was Becky Lynch, the man, and she was challenging against Rhea Ripley, who has just been probably the most breakout performer of this era of WWE on the lady side. I mean, just a megastar, and she won. And I got to tell you, this kind of surprised me that Rhea won. I know that she's been super hot. I know that you don't want to stop the momentum. I get we want to keep building. But I felt like a couple of weeks ago when I saw Becky doing an interview to media promoting her book, and she was critical of the stink face spot that went viral over a house show with Rhea Ripley. When Rhea started commenting in regards to that criticism about Becky's daughter, I thought, okay, kids are involved now. This is sort of the inverse of that old baby face making a promise deal. The baby face is going to win. That was not the case. Rhea Ripley won and looked like quite a star doing it. We find out after the fact that Becky Lynch wrestled that match with strep throat. And I guess Rhea Ripley, just minutes before going through the curtain, had a full blown panic attack of sorts. And I'm glad we're talking about these things. And I'm glad these ladies went out and had what Jordan might have called a flu game. It was super fun. What did you think?
First of all, this is news to me that Rhea had a panic attack. I think that's really interesting. I can imagine it. Wow. And Becky having strep throat. That's a lot of pressure. You're going out there knowing you're not 100%. Oh, it's the biggest show of the year. Pretty cool. Both of these ladies, I said it, when we were talking about predictions last week going into WrestleMania, this is one that I was really looking forward to because the build for these two has been so good. They've threaded the needle. They've delivered enough action and tension, all while building anticipation without overexposing the feud. Really, really, really well done. I like you. I'm surprised Rhea won. I really thought they were going to go with Becky, but Rhea and maybe it is because she is on such a roll. And if I'm not mistaken, Becky's contract is coming up soon, so that might have been a factor. Don't know. I wouldn't think so.
Where's she going?
Yeah, that's like anybody in W, especially at that level. It's different if you're maybe in a NXT or sitting home for a long time and really haven't seen a lot of action. You might be thinking that the grass could be green. I don't know how anybody would think that. I mean, the money's greener. I get that part, but
money and schedule would be the only two reasons. And creative. I mean, I say who would, but I mean, let's be real. 3 people just did. Sasha Banks, Will Ospreay, Okada. They all chose more money, lighter schedule, and maybe a little more creative freedom. But someone who's enjoyed the amount of success Becky Lynch has, that's just hard for me to imagine.
If anything, I could see her retiring.
I don't think that'll happen. I mean, at this point, considering the breakneck pace they used to carry, Eric, when they were doing house shows on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and then they would do a Monday, Tuesday. I mean, you're talking about you'd have 2 days home. And so now it's like you have 2 days gone. That's a way different ball game. And I, for one, hope she doesn't retire. I think she's still got.
Oh, I know. So do I. I love her work. I love her character. I think she's such a pro. She carries herself so well.
Yeah.
She's really a good representative of not just the women's division, but of WWE in general. She's a very, very much a class act. She carries herself well, interviews and out there in the general public. She's completely class act. I hope she doesn't retire either, but it's just, with the baby and young kids, it kind of changes your outlook on things. So,
well, but here's the thing on that.
Doesn't retire, but she probably got the bus and a nanny to help take care of the kid and travel around the world together. That's awesome too.
I was going to say, she and Seth have the bus and they're making towns together. So if anything, her being on the road is keeping the family together.
That makes sense.
Let's talk about the match itself though. They had a barn burner, 17 minutes and 9 seconds before we clicked record last week. You were sort of saying, or actually on the show, not before, you didn't know if you would start with Becky and Rhea. You felt like maybe that wasn't the right way to start. That is the way they started. I thought it was fantastic. And then we got going with a crazy tag team ladder match. And when I say crazy, it was pretty wild. We would see A-Town Down Under, which is Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, and Awesome Truth, which is R-Truth and The Miz, split up the tag belts. So Eric, this was more than we expected. We had not one set of the tag belts up there, but two. So we were going to sort of split the unified tag team titles. And somebody's going to be the Raw tag team champion and somebody's going to be the SmackDown tag team champion, but it will no longer be the Judgment Day. DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa were out there doing their best DX impression. New Day was Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. They were in there, and the New Catch Republic made a big WrestleMania debut. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate. But 17 minutes and 21 seconds later, two 17-minute matches back to back. R-Truth got a WrestleMania moment, and I, for one, am here for it.
That may be, aside from Cody finishing the story and family all being there for it, I don't think that there's going to be a feel-good moment that'll top that. But this has to be close. I mean, people love R-Truth.
Yes.
I mean, he's just such a cool guy and an amazing athlete. I don't know how old he is, but he's up there. And to be able to continue to perform the way he does, he's such an entertaining guy. Love to see this. Love to see it.
Well, something else I know you love to see is the perfect gene. I got to tell you, we've all struggled with this as guys, right? I mean, the reality is the perfect gene gave us this whole script to read. And I'm literally reading it word for word right now, including this sentence. That said, my wife has tried these jeans and they're fucking awesome. But this is still a script for me. Maybe you'll never know. Today's sponsor, The Perfect Gene, finally solved all of your denim difficulties. They make great looking, perfect fitting jeans that are as comfortable as sweatpants. Yeah, you heard me. Sweatpants. Now, what's the secret? A special denim fabric that's super soft and has the perfect amount of stretch so you can squat, do yoga, or just sit around all day in them without ever wanting to take them off. They make 6 fits from skinny to thick, and have a waist that goes from 26 to 50 and lengths that go from 26 to 38 for big boys and our short kings and tall dudes and all the rest. They got you. And for a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectgene.nyc, or just Google The Perfect Gene and be sure to use our code 83weeks15 for 15% off. And Eric, the Perfect Gene, man, I have to admit, I had my doubts, but I turned some of my guys onto them too, and we all have the same takeaway. I know this is a little overshare, but you've had it, Eric. Your nuts don't get bound up in the center of the jeans. How great is that?
No, and you can actually spin kick a mucker further in the head if you need to. That's always cool.
There you go. You never know when you're going to need that.
I'm actually going to wear mine on the plane all the way over to Australia. That's how usually I wear, a nice pair of sweats or whatever. But I'll be wearing Perfect Jeans all the way to Melbourne, Australia, because they're that comfortable.
They're comfortable. They're stretchy. You can move around in them. You're going to get tons of compliments in them, but Perfect Gene doesn't stop there though. They've also revolutionized t-shirts. The Perfect Tee has just enough stretch to hide that beer belly while accentuating your arms and chest for that flawless look. It's as soft as butter without shrinking in the wash like all your other tees. It's just perfect. The Perfect Gene always has free shipping, exchanges, and returns. You have peace of mind in knowing that your order is completely risk-free. It's finally time. Stop crushing your balls and uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectgene.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off on their first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use our code 83weeks15 at checkout. You'll get 15% off for all new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with the promo code 83weeks15. After you purchase, they're going to ask how you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Fuck your khakis. Get the Perfect Gene.
What a tagline. Conrad, I just got an alert.
Uh-oh.
Reminding me that there's a solar eclipse today.
How about that shit? And Cody Rhodes won at WrestleMania.
What kind of care? 18 states have a state of emergency because it's going to get fucking dark. It gets dark every day. What is the deal? What are people afraid? This reminds me of when in 1999, when people thought the planes were going to fall out of the skies and computers were going to eat themselves alive. What the hell? It's going to get dark for what, 7 minutes? And it's a state of emergency. They're sending out notifications like Amber Alerts, reminding people that it's going to get dark. What the fuck?
It used to get dark every day, but it's a brand new day. You see, it's a new era of WWE. Cody Rhodes is champ. It doesn't get dark anymore.
Oh, there you go.
It's just a new thing they're trying. Hey, we also saw a couple of Philadelphia Eagles do a run in. We saw Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey in their favorite Philadelphia Eagles covered Rey Mysterio inspired masks. They're to put a beat down on Santos Escobar and Dominic Mysterio to save the day for our heroes, Rey Mysterio and late replacement Andrade. Boy,
how much fun is Jason Kelsey having now?
It's the best retirement ever.
I'm living vicariously through him. I'm having fun watching him have fun. What a great, I've never met him, but I'd like to. Seems like a hell of a fun guy.
How about Andrade front and center too? I want to talk about a guy who, he's out of string of luck here. I mean, got the easy exit from AEW, got the big WrestleMania or Royal Rumble surprise return. And it didn't look like he had big WrestleMania plans, but unfortunately, an injury created an opportunity. I guess that's fortunately for him. Andrade and Rey Mysterio pick up the win here. Next up, we saw Lil Wayne, who was invited on Monday Night Raw by Jey Uso to come to WrestleMania. And he performed the single worst live performance in the history of WrestleMania. Boy, Lil Wayne, Lord bless him. He got paid, I hope. Or maybe I don't. I don't know. But what followed was Jimmy versus Jey Uso. And you just knew when the Bloodline story first started and these guys had some problems, this was where this story would wind up. Brother versus brother. Of course, last year they finished night one in the main event against Sami and Kevin Owens. This year, it's mano a mano, brother versus brother. And boy, the internet decided that this was the worst WrestleMania match of all time. They went 11 minutes and 7 seconds, and cagematch.com and the people who vote over there, I guess there's been 601 votes, gave this a 2.88 out of 10, Eric. I know that we have often given the flowers to the Bloodline story and said this is the best story in history. And even Kevin Sullivan has echoed that, but this was a miss. What do you
wonder why?
I don't know. Right. I mean, it's not like they don't have chemistry. It's not like they're not familiar. I think the crowd being cold, like physically cold, had to be part of it. I don't know. It, compared to last year's WrestleMania, it felt less than, which is weird because we would normally think of a singles match as being the blow off, not a tag match. But I don't know. Do you think the fans by and large don't want to see Jimmy versus Jey? Are they over this feud?
God, I don't know. I wouldn't imagine that though. I just can't imagine that because it's a natural story. It happens in real life. It's a relatable story. Greed, jealousy, those other deadly sins. Own a couple more if you want. So I don't think it's the story or lack thereof. I don't know. I guess it's possible. You could be right, man. You could just have two guys that were waiting to feel the crowd, kind of let the crowd dictate a little bit what's going to happen, work with the crowd. And perhaps they didn't get any feedback and it just threw them off. I don't know. It's a weird one.
Next up, we had a 6-man tag team or 6-woman tag team. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi pick up the win over Damage Control. That got a 5.41 rating from cagematch.net off of 530 votes. They only
Boy,
went
this is colorful. Look how colorful this is. If you're watching here on 83 Weeks or on YouTube with us, that's a colorful shot.
Wait till you
Talk
see.
about living your gimmick. Holy smokes, that's awesome.
Wait till you see the shots of Seth Rollins coming to the. Listen, this was a big match because and we're going to hear about it in the post match press conference from the ladies, where they talked about how important representation was, and we didn't just have one strong black female; we had three: Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, and Naomi. An incredible presentation. I mean, like the Charlie's Angels, like a superhero movie coming together. I mean, if all of a sudden laser beams started shooting out right now and there was a thunderclap, yeah, it would make sense if you're watching along with us on YouTube. And I think this is awesome. I think it's awesome for both sides, both our baby faces and Damage Control. They went 8 minutes and 3 seconds, and this is not the bra and panties match from years ago at WrestleMania.
Boy, how things have changed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who was the real impetus in or catalyst, I should say, in WWE to make that change from eye candy and the type of provocative use of women in WWE. And then there was the evolution. It changed. I've always been told that was a Stephanie McMahon initiative, and she was the one that was really behind it, the driving force for it. Man, what a difference a decade makes, right? I mean, the way the women are presented today and the women themselves, it's not just how they're presented. The women are stepping up their game and deliver. We're talking about Rhea and Becky. I mean, phenomenal performances in the ring. This isn't just like, okay, well, we've got to give the women their time too, because, equity and all that stuff. That's not it. These are phenomenal athletes that absolutely deserve to be there for no other reason than they're fucking amazing athletes. And everything else is secondary. Good as it is, progressive as it is, right as it is, it's not the reason. Reason is because they're amazingly talented performers. And I think when young girls who are, and Becky talked about this in one of her interviews last week, when she let everybody know how she felt about the stink face and all that. And Becky was very articulate and convincing to me. She didn't come off whiny and feeling or positioning herself as some kind of victim. She talked about the fact when young girls watch wrestling, what are they going to be inspired by? What are they going to think they're going to have to do when they get into the ring? And when you see athletic, Jay Cargill and Bianca, I mean, did you see the abs between those two? My God, it looked like a bodybuilding fitness contest in there. They're just such phenomenal athletes. So happy for all of them. And again, I just wonder what it's like to be Jade Cargill. I mean, I'd like to spend like 20 minutes in her head just to see what it's like, because she's so nuts. She's green. The ink is still drying on her I'm a professional wrestler card. And here she is. I think it's awesome. It just makes me happy for them. It's weird. I really am living vicariously through them. It's awesome.
Speaking of being happy for them, let's all be happy for Sami Zayn and Gunther.
Sammy. Yes. My emotional favorite. I bet I said last week, I'm going to place an emotional bet on Sami because he's done so well. He's given us such a look into what he's capable of doing. And I think last year he was, my opinion, very rarely do you give the supporting cast the star of the show award, but Sami did such an amazing job. And I think he brought Bloodline to a whole different level last year. And then he just kind of, I guess, I don't want to say faded away, but it became less significant. We didn't see a lot of Sami for quite a while. Now he's coming back, tied up with Gable. That's kind of a cool thing. It's an interesting dynamic between those two. But to see Sami get his moment like this, I didn't expect it. I thought Gunther was going to get it because he's got so much momentum. Didn't make sense logically, is what I said. It doesn't make any sense logically that Sami will get it. There's way too many arguments why he won't. But I still want to see it anyway, and then it happened. I'm so happy for Sami. He deserves it.
How could you not be happy for Sami? I thought they had the match of the night. They went 15 minutes and 29 seconds. They got 700 votes so far over on Cage Match, and it got 8.51. It is the highest reviewed show or match from night one of WrestleMania. And if you're watching with us right there, Eric, see on YouTube, that's Sami Zayn hitting the Brain Buster, which was a move made famous by his alter ego, if you will, El Generico.
Yeah.
But the idea that El Generico had a little tribute match or a tribute move when Sami Zayn beat the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. That's pretty wild. And it was a nice touch on his way to the ring that he ran into his buddy Kevin Owens just outside of Gorilla. A really special match, a special moment. And I know that I want this to last and be cherished, a moment that Sammy got with his wife and son. And hey, that was awesome. But I'm really ready for Chad Gable to turn on his ass now.
Listen to you.
Well, I mean, listen, I watch wrestling for the story, and I think that's going to be a great story. I mean, they have clearly been Rocky inspired. And I guess if there is one disappointment, I really wished that we would have got something with Rocky and Cody. I wanted Cody running through the streets in the gray sweats or running up the stairs or some VO from Sylvester Stallone. We heard it. There was an attempt made, but it just didn't happen. But what did happen is the main event. It's the biggest tag match in history. It's Cody Rhodes looking to Seth Rollins, of all people, to take on the Bloodline. Final boss and the tribal chief, The Rock and Roman Reigns. It's the first time The Rock has been in the ring in a long time. And it's funny because when the entrances for the main event started, I turned to my dad came over and watched with me. I turned to Dad and I said, "Hey, if you want, we could watch an entire basketball game during the entrance." I mean, because it was 44 minutes once the bell rang. But of course, that's not what everybody was talking about. Everybody's talking about the fact that The Rock picks up the win. So it's going to be Bloodline rules, and it was clean. It was with a rock bottom and a people's elbow. 44 minutes, 34 seconds. The Rock wins. Got to be the right finish. Gives you lots of storytelling opportunity in the future, right?
That's the fun part about WrestleMania for me. Obviously, the spectacle is fun and the build up and the stories. I mean, everything about WrestleMania is kind of amazing, really. But one of the more interesting aspects of WrestleMania is, okay, now we're setting the stage for what's going to happen the rest of the year. Not completely. I'm sure that it's not in concrete, but they have a pretty good direction, and you can see the stories getting set up now. So we're really beginning, in Act One in many cases, in some cases, and seeing how those stories are going to develop. And I'm going to say this right now: I think the star of the show, with all due respect to Cody and everybody else that performed, I think the star of the show has been creative.
Oh, no doubt.
I think whether Paul Levesque, Bruce Pritchard, Ed Koskey, the entire team of creative that work with those gentlemen, I think they're the stars of the show. The creative leading up to WrestleMania, and again going back to, especially with all the drama that we had back in January. I mean, to be able to pull it all together and write such an amazing story with nuance and layers. And then to be able to, in doing so in a way so that it allows you to, beginning tonight, Monday Night Raw, we're starting to reveal and track stories going into the next big PLE. It's awesome. I love it. You think Chad Gable's going to turn on Sami? Really?
100%. Be awesome.
He would be a really, because he's a funny guy. Chad Gable's funny.
Be a badass heel though.
But yeah, he's got that Kurt Angle switch.
Yes.
Nick Nemeth switch. He can giggle and laugh, make you have fun, and then just kind of pull your arms and legs off whenever he wants to. It's a cool character. Interesting.
Well,
Sammy's really good too. Sammy's a good improv. So that should be a ton of fun.
Well, what else is a ton of fun is our sponsor, Henson. Man, they have really done a life hack here. If you're looking for the best razor around, look no further than Henson. And I wouldn't just be saying that if they stopped advertising here. I know what you're thinking, but I'm telling you, the first time you try this, you'll get, oh, this is different. You'll know it when you feel it in your hand. I know that sounds crazy, but it makes sense. And it will once you hold a Henson razor. Henson Shaving's a family owned aerospace parts manufacturer. These cats have made parts for the International Space Station and the Mars rover. But what they did is they used their CNC machines that are aerospace grade to create the thinnest razors of all time. Seriously, it's 0.0013 inches. That's less than the thickness of a human hair. And it means for you a more secure and stable blade and a vibration free shave. The razor also has built-in channels to evacuate hair and cream and make clogging virtually impossible. Henson wanted to create the best razor, not necessarily the best razor business. And that means no plastic, no subscriptions, no proprietary blades, no planned obsolescence. And the Henson razor works with a standard dual edge blade that gives you that old school feel with all the benefits of new school tech. Think about this though, $3 to $5. Yeah, $3 to $5 a year to replace the blades. That's it. Let's say no to subscriptions. Let's say yes to a razor that will last you a lifetime. Go right now to hensonshaving.com/Bischoff to pick up the razor for you and use our code Bischoff and you'll get 2 years worth of blades free with your razor. Just be sure to add them to your cart. That's 100 free blades when you head to hensonshaving.com/Bischoff and use the code Bischoff.
Do you know I actually look forward to shaving?
Really?
I've never looked forward to shaving. Maybe when I was a teenager, like I was 13 or 14, you get a little hair coming out here or there, and you think, oh, I'm a man. The chicks are going to dig me. It was different back then. But, once you've, gotten older and shaving is just a pain in the ass, it just takes time. But I actually enjoy it. And I find myself walking around rubbing my face because it's like a baby's butt. I mean, it's so soft and smooth. And I tell Mrs. B all the time, honey, feel my face. Just feel it. Stroke it lightly. Sounds weird, right? Shouldn't be talking about that. But yeah, I look forward to shaving. And Mrs. B picked up my razor in the shower. We were in Las Vegas and we were changing rooms. And she said, honey, I'll get your stuff. And she told me this, swear to God. She goes, I looked at that razor. I've seen it sitting around. I've never picked it up. She goes, I thought it was like really light, like plastic. She goes, that's a hell of a razor. It's got some heft to it. That's why you say why you said, the minute you pick it up, you'll feel the difference and it gets better from there.
It did get better from there. Night one was behind us. The Rock had won. It was going to be Bloodline rules. We saw Mama Rhodes at ringside. We saw The Rock tripping recover. We saw a table spot. I thought this was a risky proposition. We actually talked about it last night. You had 3 guys expected to go back to back to back. 4 if you count Damian Priest, I suppose. But they pulled it off. And then afterwards, a really fun press conference where we got a little bit of news. Triple H basically said, Brock's still with us. He's just at home being Brock.
That surprised me.
And I thought, okay. I mean, listen, we saw quietly, they discounted all of his merch, put it all on sale. And we saw quietly where he was moved off the website and then quietly put back on the website. As you and I are recording tonight, wouldn't surprise me if Brock popped back up.
Wow.
I don't know. Just saying, wouldn't surprise me. We also saw before the show.
You seem to have, you know what? I don't mean to interrupt your flow.
Yeah.
But you have this unique ability to predict things. Like, I remember it just came to me last week. You think there's any chance we'll ever see the security camera footage from AEW? I said, Conrad, why would anybody do that?
Because
we'll talk about it more. But it's just, I find it fascinating how you have these little nuggets, predictions, and poof, they come true.
Maybe I've just been paying too much attention.
Or maybe I'm rubbing off on you and you're becoming prescient as well.
Yes.
When you say the word precedent, it's like there should be glitter in the air and
yes.
the sounds of tinkling.
I dusted off the word plethora in 7th grade to the amazement of everybody, and I've never forgotten it. So whenever you dust off plethora, we have that in common too. Never told you. Hey, the finish of night 1, I thought was going to play into night 2, because along the way there, before the Rock hit the rock bottom and the people's elbow, he got speared by Roman Reigns. So there's these little nuggets that you assume are going to lead to something in the future. So we'll see what happens. We should also talk about night 2, because we're only halfway there. And after Triple H opened the show night 1, Stephanie McMahon opened it on night 2. We haven't seen Stephanie in a long, long time in WWE until Friday night after SmackDown was finished, when you had to fire up your Peacock and watch the Hall of Fame. There she was, seated right next to Triple H, right by Cody Rhodes, right up front. And now she's going to open the show night 2. This was surreal. I just never imagined we would see this. And here we go.
I know. And here's how I feel about it. I'm happy. I know that's going to get heat, right? Oh yeah, but people are going to dig up the nonsense, and that's not nonsense. People are going to dig up the controversy and the allegations and lawsuit. And yes, Stephanie McMahon's name is woven in there. What did she know, and when did she know, and all that kind of stuff. Look, it exists, it's there. But my God, it was just good to see Stephanie there, and Shane, because we've been talking about ever since. And I don't really want to spend any time talking about Vince's situation, but one of the things that I think impacted me the most was how the rest of the family was impacted by it, and how unfortunate, sad that they have to feel awkward in public, or just carrying that around, wondering what people are thinking. And my bet is there was so much love and support around Stephanie and Shane and their families that I imagine they both felt really, really good to be part of W. I for one was very, very happy to see it. For Paul, for Stephanie, for Shane, the respective families, I'm very happy to see it. It's another one of those feel good moments for me.
Well, I felt pretty good that they were starting out hot on night 2. Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins go 10 minutes and 40 seconds. And what a visual it was. See Drew McIntyre come into the ring with the bagpipes and all the swords. I mean, it was special. And Seth Rollins, not to be outdone, looks like he was just a part of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory in an explosion. I mean, you talked about colorful. This looks like a Mardi Gras parade got sick and threw up on the way there.
Buck, he left damage control in the dirt as far as color and presentation. Look at this.
Not to be outdone, right? And
holy smokes.
Yeah, listen, it was a wild presentation. That's all there is to say here. Drew gets the win. I think a lot of people had that on their bingo card. He's been doing a lot of really, really great work. That means Seth's going to go 0-2 at this year's WrestleMania. One of the real unsung heroes and MVPs of WWE, in my opinion, for the last year, both of these guys. And almost immediately, Drew goes over to ringside and hugs his wife. They celebrate with the title. Then he goes and starts trolling CM Punk and sits down on the desk in front of Punk where Punk was doing commentary, starts talking trash to him. Punk eventually has seen enough, throws his feet out from underneath Drew. Drew takes a big bump. Punk starts to take off the arm brace. We're going to get some physicality. And all of a sudden that music hits, and here he comes. Damian Priest, after all this time, finally cashes in, and he does it successfully. 7 seconds later, Damian Priest is the world champion. The former Punishment Martinez. This is a guy who a lot of people counted out a long time ago. I was so happy for him, the former Ring of Honor television champion, now making it all the way to win one of the big belts at WrestleMania. What a great success story Damian Priest has been. And it's interesting to me, if you take a look at the presentation, it's a lot of black and purple. And some smart asses online had fun and tried to take away and diminish. But I'm really happy for Damian Priest. What a cool story.
What are they saying online to take away from who's shitting on Priest right here?
They're calling him bisexual Undertaker. Not fair. Not cool.
It's weird.
Just hater shit.
It's like it's just like it's life, where you've got a small percentage of people that say stupid shit loudly, and it just takes the fun out of it. I'm happy for him. And it's interesting too. Here we go. I don't know, Drew and Punk. They had to lay the foundation for it. They've got an act one ready to go. We saw the inciting incident, which is a typical first act one requisite. We've got it now. Inciting moment. The only question now is whether Punk stays healthy. I hope so. They've done a good job with this. They set it up well before WrestleMania. And this little incident really creates the anticipation for it. Now the only question is if Punk stays healthy. I don't know. Would you invest this much in Punk and McIntyre this soon, not knowing where Punk's at physically?
Well, he'll be at one of the PLEs. I don't know if he'll be at the April one, but he'll be at the May one. Gotta assume. And yeah, I think you double down, if anything, on Punk. And because I think, Punk's real draw to me has always been his microphone, more so than he's a great wrestler. I'm not arguing that, but I'm just saying, if I could watch Punk wrestle or I could watch him cut a promo, give me the promo. But I'm that way with most guys, but I would still prefer to see them build the story that way and then pay it off. So we got, 4-8 weeks before he's got to actually do something. But we're heavy on story. What a way to start the show. Title switch right away. And then it's time for our Philadelphia street fight. It's a 6-man tag team where we've got the Pride, Street Profits, and Bobby Lashley. What a cool faction that is. B-Fab in tow there. Taking on the Final Testament. They're trying. Lord bless them. Karrion Kross has had a cool look for forever, and he's changed it a few times. Still looks cool every time. Always has a cool entrance. For whatever reason, he hasn't had the success in WWE, and I can't put my finger on why, but you told us last week, hey man, watch out for this. You got the Authors of Pain, you got Karrion Kross, Paul Ellering, and Scarlett all in tow. Really a fun presentation for the group. And the match kind of was what it was. It was made more interesting, I guess, by seeing Bubba Ray Dudley, who, I gotta say, looked a little weird. Tucked in referee shirt. I'm used to Bubba Ray Dudley the way we normally see him. And it looks like, respectfully, he's on Alex Jones's bowling team here. Just doesn't look nearly as cool as I'm used to seeing Bubba Ray look.
I know, he doesn't have that New York street vibe, does he?
And now there was a moment in the match where they tried to turn the volume up. He had to reach into his pockets and put on the Dudley glasses for a big pop. He did the last with the Street Profits. It was fun for what it was. I was really happy to see Bully out there. But maybe we should get him like a camo Dudley Boy inspired top. I don't know, just the regular referee stripes. Like that's too lame for Bully Ray.
Yeah, it's just not flattering. It's just not flattering.
Put him in one of those leather cuts. Like I want the Bubba Ray, Bully Ray character. I don't want haul it right down the middle. But
yeah, even sleeveless. You could have just cut the sleeves off that. Maybe.
Yeah,
could have helped. Anything.
Either way, it was fun for what it was. We wanted to send folks home happy on a special ECW night, if you will. That match was even more fun. It was presented by Gin and Juice, which is Snoop Dogg's new album. So Snoop's going to rap his way out and show off the new title and dance around in the ring, but do hilarious commentary. I mean, hilarious commentary. Give me more of Snoop on commentary. I think we first saw it with Triller like 3 years ago on a pay-per-view boxing match, if you want to call it boxing. Next up,
I'm surprised we saw Snoop. I thought Snoop's association with WWE would have gone by the way of Mercedes Moné. I didn't think he'd be back after she left, but I'm glad he is, because he is entertaining as hell.
I think he was around then, now, forever. He was around before Sasha was. I mean, this is a way to promote his album. I mean, make no mistake, like this was a business deal.
It's all business.
All business. It was all business for LA Knight too. He got his WrestleMania moment with a big win over AJ Styles. They went 12 minutes and 28 seconds. This was as TNA as it gets. Even the referee, former TNA Rudy Charles. But LA Knight, man, AJ Styles, 12 minutes and 28 seconds. They got a 7.0 rating over on Cage Match.
Barn burner. You knew it was going to be, though, right? How could it not be with those two? Especially, not especially, but considering AJ, and he looks freaking awesome. He looks better than he ever has. He's probably slowed down just a little bit on some of the really crazy aerial stuff, but he's so impressive. You knew that it was going to be a great match.
What tickled me is there's a segment, and I want you to go out of your way to watch this, because I know why you would have tuned out during it, Eric, but they're doing a little sponsor shout out for Slim Jim. They're doing more sponsorship dollars than ever before on this show. So a lot of matches are sponsored individually, including LA Knight. I mean, he drove up in a Slim Jim car, and they've got the Slim Jim LED boards out there around the ring posts and all that jazz. But at one point, they've clearly given away a bunch of Slim Jims to this particular section of the crowd. And the cameraman is panning the crowd, showing all these people, yay, celebrating that they got free meat snacks. Yay, I got a Slim Jim. I'm at WrestleMania. Yay. And then we get to one guy who looks like he's deep throating a penis with this thing. And the cameraman does everything he can to get off of this guy, simulating fellatio with his Slim Jim. But boy, he's really getting after it. He's committed to the bit. And the cameraman is trying everything he can to get away. And I got to tell you, I watched it 3 times. It tickled me every time. I know it's juvenile and it's stupid, and I shouldn't care. And we should not encourage this behavior.
But you're human. You're human. It's okay to laugh at silly shit.
I fucking died laughing. I mean, listen, all I could do is think about that cameraman and how he's just, okay, somebody's in my ear saying, all right, get the fucking Slim Jim shot. All right, here we go. Oh shit.
Get off the shot. Get off the shot.
It's amazing. It's so stupid, but so funny. Next up, Logan Paul is going to be in a 3-way dance with Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. Heavy on story here. Randy Orton teasing that he's working together with Kevin Owens, and then teasing like, oh, but I mean, I will give him an RKO. And Kevin just sort of looking at him like, really? I mean, so great. What a cool moment. And I even like the moment ahead of time where we saw walking through Gorilla, just like the night before, where Kevin Owens was standing there waiting to well wish and all that jazz for Sami Zayn before he challenged for the Intercontinental title. Sami is here to do the same for Kevin Owens, but it doesn't work for Kevin Owens because Logan Paul retains. He had the Prime Hydration station right there at ringside. He danced around with a bottle, and everybody now is familiar with the gag. It's like the new version of the Pete Rose gag and the chicken suit, I guess, where, okay, who's in there this year? It was not KSI. It was a streamer, I Show Speed, or whatever the fuck his name is.
And I bet you hardly anybody knew him, right?
Well, listen, I don't think that the over 50 audience that watches WWE knew who he was, but those kids who were playing those games, they're very familiar. Um, Listen, it was a fun match. I was sort of blown away watching Logan Paul again. The new has still not worn off this for me. Like, I get he is a believable athlete based on his height and his stature and his presentation, but even the way he moves, he's so athletic. And I just don't think that people have that perception of him. And it feels like he exceeds expectations every time. And this is one of those. Now, granted, you could say that pretty much with any Kevin Owens or Randy Orton match. At this point, those guys they're into the master class level of professional wrestling. They could make a match with Eric Bischoff look pretty fucking good. But man, they did it for Logan here. Logan continues to be a made man and pay dividends. I assume we'll see him next in Saudi Arabia.
What was this, his 12th match?
Something like that. Yeah.
Something crazy.
That's working out, right?
He must live in the ring. He must like work out 10 or 12 hours a day. You don't get that. You're not born that good. Professional wrestling is such a unique art form. And yes, if you have an athletic background, you're probably going to pick it up faster than someone perhaps who has no athletic background, obviously. But a background as an athlete isn't going to give you the skill set at such a short period of time that we've seen on Logan Paul. It's just fucking nuts.
I've been under the impression, I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I've been under the impression that he trains these matches and works them out move by move at times with Shawn Michaels. So if you're going to have somebody working with you hand in hand at the performance center or your own private ring, helping you put together and execute a pay-per-view match, can you think of anyone better to walk you through that than Shawn Michaels?
No, and similar styles, right?
Yes.
It's a little bigger, but the style is very, very similar. Offense is very similar. That explains some timing. It's one of the things that made Shawn, that made Shawn Michaels the caliber of performer that he was. Selling and his timing. Say the same thing about Randy Orton. So yeah, if Logan Paul's got Shawn Michaels for a coach, really helping him lay out his matches and focusing on those matches, that explains some of it. But he's still a freak. God's sake, he's a freak.
Let's talk a little bit about the WrestleMania moment for Bayley. We predicted this. Bayley wins against Io Sky. Got plenty of time too. 14 minutes and 22 seconds. It got an 8.68 rating out of the votes so far, and it's a title change. Bayley wins. What an impressive night. What an impressive moment. And I know that I said last week, this is going to be her WrestleMania moment. And a few people were after me saying, well, in 2017, she won a 4-way. Yeah, but I'm under the impression that this one had to mean more for Bayley. First of all, Bayley in 2017 and Bayley in 2024 are totally different. Same can be said for women's wrestling and for that matter, WWE. But this was also a singles match. And I really respect Io Sky and what a talented in-ring performer she is. But boy, the crowd was just dead for her entrance. They were ready to see Bayley get this moment. I think we were all sort of in this together, whether she's been a heel or she's been a babyface. We were pulling for her. I was glad to see Bayley get her hand raised, Eric.
Me too. She's an amazing person, very, very nice person, and a real pro. And she's just been grinding and just working and getting better and better and better. And has had to put up with a lot of ups and downs in her career so far. I know there was back in 2019 when I was there and worked. So yeah, you love to see people persevere and to see it pay off the way that it did. And I'm with you. You can have all the great matches you want, get great cage match rankings. And this is new to me, this cage match ranking thing, but I'd rather hear about that than Dave Meltzer's stars. Let's put it that way. So I'm all about it, but there's nothing like being out there by yourself. in a singles match, as opposed to being part of a team and 6-man, whatever. Being out there when it's just you and your opponent telling a story, that's the best way to shine. Absolutely. This was her opportunity to do.
Our
Where
main
does she go from
event.
here? What do you think? What do you think? Where does Becky go from here? Where's the story go? You know?
It's a great question. I mean, as we understand it, I guess we should just time out. We'll come back to WrestleMania for a minute, but for as long as I've been watching wrestling, whenever WrestleMania is finished, we go do a European tour. And somewhere along that tour, or the Monday after WrestleMania is always huge. I expect that tonight. They've set another gate record, Eric. Last Monday or Monday before last was the highest grossing in the history, blah, blah, blah. That was Chicago. They beat it in New York last week. They're going to beat it again tonight.
Wow.
They're on this crazy run right now, but I, for one, am used to a European tour, some new storylines starting, and a draft, and unfortunately, some releases. I don't know what's next for Bayley. I think it's great that we have so much talent on this roster. I mean, realistically, would anybody be surprised if it was Naomi or it was Jade or it was Bianca or I mean, there's so many talented ladies there. And that's not even talking about Tiffany Stratton and all the other great superstars in NXT. But I do think we're going to see some more of what made the Monday after WrestleMania great. And we're going to see some debuts tonight. Do you think, again, I don't have any inside information. I'm just guessing, but you go back even say like 10 years and Paige debuted the Monday after WrestleMania in New Orleans. You think we see Braun Breaker and others tonight on Raw making a splash?
I hope so. I hope so. And I think you're right. I've never really thought about it in that respect, but it is just like it's an opportunity for new stories. The next, A, B, C, D stories to emerge over time. Yeah. Surprise appearances, debuts, if you will, fresh talent. I'd like to see Braun Breaker regularly. Fixture, main story, not a main story, not an A story. Give him a C, give him a D story. Let's just let him start to develop more on that Raw show, main show. I'd love to see it.
By the way, I know we're not supposed to play audio from WWE, but this is from social media and it's from a social media clip. Samantha, who is the ring announcer for WWE, was choked up announcing the winner of WrestleMania. Take a listen here. Crying, Eric. This was an emotional
awesome?
WrestleMania. Like I've got my group chat. We've referenced them before, and it's a group chat of guys who that's really the only thing we have in common is pro wrestling. And we're just constantly chatting about it throughout our day. And one of my friends went, I probably shouldn't say their name, but he woke up this morning and messaged the group chat. I'm still on a high from last night. And between people's voice cracking and breaking and crying when Cody won, and now other people who were in the stands who wake up on their way to their job today and are like, man, I'm still on a high from last night. That's wrestling storytelling done right. Is it not?
It does my soul so good to hear you say that. Wrestling storytelling.
Yes.
What have we been talking about in this podcast for so long? Particularly in regard to creative, both in WWE in the past, and certainly with regard to AEW, it comes up all the time. But when wrestling story is done well, it's as powerful as a great movie. It because it creates emotion. It makes people feel differently than able to feel in the normal course of their day. That's why you go to movies to escape, or you watch television to escape, and you watch wrestling to escape, to put yourself, to live vicariously through the characters that you love or you hate. Right? And when the story is there, it brings out so much emotion in people. That's what makes professional wrestling such a unique art. It's physical dialogue. Most of the story takes place inside of the ring. And you've got narrative on the outside. Your ring announcers help to kind of support, the narrative that's necessary to kind of fill in the blanks of the story. The talent themselves get an opportunity on the microphone to do it. But for the most part, the magic story is told physically. And when it all comes together, when you have great creative, when your storylines, your arcs of your story are hitting those plot points and all of the things you need to do to make a legitimate story, a compelling story that creates emotion, and people remember. They'll always remember the story. They may not remember the match. They may. For the most part, they remember the stories, the reasons why these two performers, athletes, wrestlers, whatever you want to call them, why did they wrestle? What was behind it? Remember the story when it's good. And like I said, 20 minutes ago or an hour ago, I think the storytelling, the creative team for WWE is the VIP for this WrestleMania. It's been so good. And it's what makes me excited about, I'm not going to be able to watch Raw tonight. Obviously, I'm going to be on a plane, but my way to Melbourne, but I'll watch it when we get to Melbourne. And because I'm excited to see where it's going to go with this. I have so much confidence in the storytelling capabilities in WWE right now. I'm more excited about WWE today than I was last week. That's how good it's been.
It was an incredible night 2 of WrestleMania. And of course it finished with Cody finishing the story in no particular order. Jimmy comes in and interferes. Jay counteracts and spears him off of the ramp. Here comes Solo. We hit the spike, and then we hit a spear and a spike. Somehow, some way, Cody kicks out both times. That's when we hear John Cena's music. He runs down, starts clearing house. And as you might imagine, it's not too terribly long before The Rock is here. Considering the history that Rock and Cena have at WrestleMania, this was really cool. And then the bell tolls. And it's The Undertaker, who we saw in a suite earlier in the night. If you're watching on social media. And here he is in street clothes with a choke slam that I think The Rock forgot maybe how choke slams go. But we got one. We got one. It's been a little while. And I think two things I want to touch on here. I was surprised about, maybe more than anything. We went not one, but 2 nights of WrestleMania and we didn't hear a single Rock promo. That's weird.
That is weird, isn't it?
What else is weird is the fact that we didn't just get the babyface raising the title above his head and some fireworks go off and there's the credits. We got a full in-ring happy horseshit send-off. I'm not saying that negative. I'm just saying that's the way Bruce would sometimes call things. Oh, let's do all the happy horseshit. But this
that's
was
that's director talk.
Yes. This
will go do. Yeah. And some happy horseshit at the end. And we're good.
There you go. We got all the happy horseshit at the end. It was very non-WWE like. He gets Mama Rhodes in there. He gets the whole family in there. They lift him up on their shoulders. They present him the belt. Triple H gives him a big hug. He grabs a microphone, cuts a promo. This isn't happening off air. This is on the main feed of WrestleMania. Normally we get this sort of talk once the cameras are finished. But from the ring, he called down Triple H. And unbelievably, he called down Bruce Pritchard. So Bruce Pritchard, our pal, is in the ring, hugging Cody Rhodes, celebrating the finish of the story. We're not privy to everything Paul says or Bruce says. It's just a real moment and the cameras are capturing it. just like they might at center field after a Super Bowl. Everything doesn't have to be mic'd up or produced, but that felt like such a departure from the way WWE has been presented. There were kids in the ring. Cody's mom was in the ring. Cody's agent, Wittenstein, was in the ring. Like, these are things that just normally wouldn't happen. What'd you make of this presentation last night? And not just that it happened, but it happened on air.
I don't know whose decision it was to make this departure, to go down this path. Possibly a collective decision. Perhaps it was Paul Levesque's decision. Who knows? And actually, who cares? Because it was such a feel. I think it's so important for this event. It's branding. This is an event that brings people together, and talk about sending people home happy. This was authentic and legit. It's not that, confetti coming down from the sky and, everybody rushing to the ring to congratulate the winner of the match. That's all real. It's not unauthentic, because you actually do feel happy for your peers as they're reaching that level of success, and you get to be a part of it and share it in the ring. The feeling is real. But when you're bringing in family and encouraging that type of thing, it just adds so much value to the experience, to everybody watching at home, wherever they are, to the people in the venue that get to share that moment. I've said vicariously now 3 times on this show so far, maybe a record, I'm not sure. But even the audience in the arena gets to live vicariously through that magic moment they're seeing happen right in front of them, and they can see the tears. They can see the joy. They can feel the joy. It's a vibe. It's an energy, and you get to experience that along with the people in the ring. Nothing more magic than that, and it actually transcends. It transmutes. I think that's a word, transmutes. I'm going to have to look it up when this is over, but I think that the energy transmutes around the world, and even people watching at home can feel it. That's how real it is. Whosever idea it was, bingo. Awesome. Cherry on top.
The MVP.
The fact that we know some of those people, and have relationships with them, probably makes it a little more meaningful for you and I.
Yeah.
But even if you don't have a direct relationship with Cody or Michelle, his mother, or his sister, or anybody else, you can. I'll start tearing up if I think about it. You know what I did Saturday afternoon? My daughter, Montana, had a marathon in Las Vegas. This was her 7th marathon. I'm going to put her over just a little bit. This was her 7th marathon, and she really, really wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon, because you have to hit a certain time to even get an invitation to race in Boston. It's kind of like the holy grail for, beginning marathon runners, even advanced ones, like my daughter. But anyway, we go down to meet her at the finish line, and I've got about an hour and a half to myself. And I was just walking around looking at shit, and I started thinking about Dusty. And I was trying to imagine what the conversation would be if I were sitting down at a bar having a beer with Dusty as we're waiting for WrestleMania night 2 to happen. And what we saw inside of the ring was kind of a version of that. You can feel the emotion. So happy for everybody involved.
How could you not be? It was a special moment. It's a special day. And a lot of it, a big part of it, was Seth Rollins. And I thought that was understated, but well done. Ultimately, what beat Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns choosing to check the box of that grudge, that turn, that betrayal 10 years ago when the Shield broke up. So when they played the Shield music, and here came Seth Rollins in full Shield garb, yielding a chair, Roman saw his opportunity. He took it. He could have went after Cody and maintained the title, or he could have went after his former enemy and rebut that.
What a story
betrayal.
beat. What a beat in that story, though.
Excellent.
That's what I mean. That's such a little thing that had so much power in that particular story. It's envy, jealousy, greed, some of the 7 deadly sins, whatever. You can always rely upon one of them. to be that beat in a story you need, because everybody understood it. It tied it all together. It made sense. It wasn't a story beat just for the sake of it. It was a story beat that had relevance. Awesome.
Let's also talk about something else that makes sense. We're talking about our friends at EarnIn. Life doesn't happen bi-weekly, so why should payday? The money you earn can be in your hands today with EarnIn. EarnIn is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day or up to $750 per pay period. All you do is download the EarnIn app and verify your paycheck. Then you can access up to $100 a day as you work and even leave an additional tip. Any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. Maybe you're looking for that special night out or a last minute gift for a loved one. Maybe you had some bad news, like an unexpected trip to the vet. Or maybe there's just regular life expenses, like it's time to get new school clothes, or maybe the first of the month came a little early. We need it for some rent. Make EarnIn a part of your financial routine and join EarnIn's over 3.5 million customers who say things like, when I think about EarnIn, I think about financial stability, security. It gives me a lot of peace of mind. Download EarnIn today. That's spelled EARNIN in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the EarnIn app, type in 83 weeks under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. That's 83 weeks under podcast. By the way, EarnIn is a financial technology company, not a bank. Subject to your earnings, your available earnings, daily max, pay period max, and location. See earnin.com/TOS for details. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust, member FDIC. Seriously. EarnIn is the app that's helping millions of Americans to feel self-sufficient without falling into debt traps. Go right now, download the EarnIn app, and be sure to look for podcast. You'll type in 83 weeks. It'll really help the show. So listen, Eric, it's a big night. It's a special moment. Our pal Bruce got shouted out and came down to the ring and gave Cody a big hug. And then when they went backstage, the night's over. So we think. Just one more press conference to go. But before Cody got on stage, as I understand it, Triple H, Bruce Pritchard, and Nick Khan pulled him aside and told him they'd been thinking about him. They gave him a special gift that he showed off at the post-match press conference. If you've seen Cody Rhodes' documentary that came out last year in advance of WrestleMania, and you know the story of how he got into wrestling and how it wasn't the original plan. The American Dream son wanted to have Hollywood dreams. So times were tough on the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, but he wanted to support his children. So he pawned his solid gold 18 karat date just Rolex on a Jubilee band for $10,000. Kids came home. He handed them $10,000 in a rubber band and said, go to Hollywood, chase your dreams, make it happen. And in order to do that, he gave of himself the very same thing we all saw as wrestling fans every weekend on TBS when he was cutting promos about the Horsemen and Ric Flair. There that gold Rolex was. And Cody, as he's being handed that knot in a rubber band, had no idea what it represented, had no idea what his dad had done to get it. And of course, when he found out that his dad passed years later, hey mom, where's dad's Rolex? Son, he sold that. He pawned that. It's in Uintah, California. Somehow, some way, WWE, help from some very smart jewelers, found the really rare Dusty Rhodes gold Rolex. Listen, the date that you've seen Ric Flair wear and a lot of people in wrestling wear, that's the common watch. But Dusty was a little different. The date just, a yellow gold date just is not easy to find, but they found one, and Cody clearly moved, showing it off very emotionally at the post-match presser. Man, I'm going to tell you, wrestling is pretty fucking dumb sometimes. But when it's good, there just ain't nothing better.
When it's good, it's the best.
Yes.
This is good. This is so good. This is what professional wrestling did. People talk about what's best for business. What we saw at WrestleMania. Emotion. God, it's tearing me up. Damn it. I hate it when it happens. This is awesome. This is what's best for business. This. What a move.
So awesome. So special. Shout out to Bruce and Paul and Nick for such a thoughtful gift. And shout out to the whole Rhodes clan. Boy, they've been put through it, man. I hate that Cody had to enjoy last night without his dad, but I can't imagine how proud.
Oh, he was there, bro. He was there.
That's exactly what Hunter said. With that watch, it's just a reminder that, hey, your dad's here. Can't see him, but we can feel him. He's here. Oh. And I know Dusty would have been so proud this morning. The Today Show with the world title and a gold Rolex, fresh off the WrestleMania main event 2 nights in a row. That's pretty special. Shout out to
he not only finished the story, he's telling a brand new one.
It's funny you say that because he's already tweeted that out this morning. And boy, Cody knows how to use Twitter effectively when he wants to. Not only can he sell out a 10,000 seat arena on a bet with Dave Meltzer, but he can also post the new WWE world title sitting next to what should have been his dad's world title. When one good story ends, an even better one begins. Man, what a cool shot that is. What a cool moment this is. And well, there's still some other news to talk about. I can't believe this is real. We'll get to that in a minute. As the clock struck midnight today, Eric, because we're only 9 hours into the day right now, Matt Hardy is a free agent. Didn't see that on my bingo card. We heard a few weeks ago he had been offered a new contract by AEW. We saw over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he and his brother Jeff had 7 hours of lines each day. So they're clearly over like Rover with the autograph crowd. Sean Ross Sapp broke the news right after midnight. Matt Hardy's officially a free agent. Been in talks to remain with AEW, but his contract expired at midnight, and he said he's chosen to not sign a deal offered to him. We'll have more details as they emerge. So at least for now, Matt Hardy on the outside looking in. I don't know what's next for the Hardy.
Do you know what Jeff's contractual status is?
I do not. I assume that, he did miss some time there, so they may have added that time back. But I also know they didn't come together, as you'll recall. Matt was first.
Right.
What do you, would you be surprised to see the Hardys in WWE again?
Yes. I would. But I said the same thing about CM Punk. I would only because WWE doesn't, and this is no disrespect to Jeff or Matt. Please, I know you people out there listening are going to take it this way because that's what you do. Take something that's meant to be an honest opinion or observation in this case and twist it and turn it, make it sound like I'm burying somebody. I'm not doing it. What I am doing is pointing out that WWE right now is on a roll creatively, roster-wise. There's not a lot of holes. There's not a lot of need. So regardless of how talented someone may be, there's not a need. If there's not a vacancy, if there's not a slot to be filled, it makes it a little more difficult. And I think right now with the stories, with the talent, everything going the way it's going in WWE, I just don't feel that there's a big need, which is exactly what I said about CM Punk. And then they brought him in. So don't fucking listen to me can ask me questions and I'll go on and on and on and give you my opinion. But clearly I'm not right all the time. About 8% of the time I get it wrong. Seven and change. 7%, 7.64%, I think is where I'm at right now. I'll get something. That being said, I don't see it. I really don't. I can see, especially Matt. I think Matt's a good teacher. Matt likes to teach. He's passionate. Could I see him working down at the Performance Center? Absolutely. But in the ring again, competing, I just think the injuries, time, things that happen naturally over time as you age, I just don't see it. But like I said, hopefully I'm wrong for their sake, especially Matt. He's not under contract right now.
I got to think their last match is going to be in WWE.
Well, it would be a beautiful setup if that's possible. It's kind of what I was asking about, why I was asking about Jeff.
Yeah.
Matt going back to WWE on his own, I think is less likely. Matt and Jeff, if Jeff's available, more likely because of what you just said. Now, I didn't think of that, last match kind of send off retirement, but definitely could see that.
Well, we'll stay tuned and see what happens, but I know we're all going to be tuned in this Wednesday. I can't believe this is real, but boy, what a crazy week this was last week. We saw on Monday, Vince McMahon responded to that lawsuit from January, and boy, he overshared. And he was using the MLW attorney who just beat WWE. And he sold
fascinating, right?
And he sold another $100 million worth of stock. And then Punk went on Ariel Helwani and just burned it down and did one crazy promo after another. I mean, just spilling the tea, as the kids would say. Fast forward, kind of a big night for wrestling on Friday night with a big SmackDown and then the Hall of Fame where Paul Heyman took his rightful spot. Great, fabulous speech there. But then 2 nights of WrestleMania, and somewhere lost in all of that was the fact that Collision was actually taped right after Dynamite on Wednesday. And it aired right after Alabama got the shit beat out of them in the Final Four on Saturday night. So it started at 11:30 Eastern. But more than halfway through the show, so well past 12:30 Eastern, we're in the middle of the night now, it sounded like a pickup that Shivani would have recorded, meaning it wouldn't have been something, I would guess, that was recorded on Wednesday. I think it would have been done in post, just based on the way it sounded. Shivani announced that this coming Wednesday, Matthew and Nicholas, the Young Bucks, are going to present the backstage footage from All In London, and they're going to discuss it for the first time. Now, this footage would not be the quote unquote brawl out footage from Chicago the year prior. This would be last year, where he famously got into it with Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and then there was some sort of a skirmish and a pull apart. Punk was on the first match of the pay-per-view. Perry was finishing up the last match on the pre-show. That's where the interaction happened. And I heard that week that it was filmed, that it was recorded, that AEW had gotten the footage from Wembley Stadium. And I thought to myself, if this footage is as bad as they think it is, or they say it is, where people reviewed it and then made the decision, allegedly, Punk's got to go. If they were getting any backlash, the thing to do would be to show it. That's the way I felt in like early September. Here we are now. Punk doesn't work there. Punk works for another company. He's already gotten injured in that company. He's on the sidelines for a while. He's not even a major participant in WrestleMania this weekend. And still, we're going to see this, and I can't help but think, is this in response to Cody's promo? Meltzer would say, my gut was bad idea, but when we see it, whatever. After Punk did the interview, I obviously contacted many, many people in the company, and the general thing was, we're moving past that. We don't want to deal with it. Some of that's true, and some of it's not true, but whatever, we got to move forward. But Tony's the boss, and Tony never said that. I'll presume this airing is because there's proof that what Punk said wasn't true. And that's sort of the logical leap I made last week with you, Eric, that if Punk is saying, here's what happened, if there's anything that can be refuted with that video evidence, we knew AEW had it. And now, since we've recorded it, they've decided they're going to release it. And everyone, as they're reporting this, I shouldn't say everyone, Alvarez, I believe, and Dave Meltzer are both saying this is not a bait and switch. They are going to show it. It almost feels like the curtain call where we heard about it, but we weren't supposed to see it. And then when they showed it on WWE TV and made it part of the story, I liked it. But I am curious, where is this story going since Punk is gone? I assume Jungle Boy is about to be back on the show, and this is the way they bring him back. That's the only thing I can think that makes sense out of this, Eric.
That doesn't make sense, though. I mean, I know what you're saying. It's the only thing that you can think of that seems like perhaps there was a thought process put into it. I think you're giving them too much credit. This is an emotional reaction that has absolutely no upside. Think about it. If the footage, and I'm not real knowledgeable of this situation, but if the footage that we're going to see in any way, especially with the narrative that's coming from the Bucks, because they're going to have the ability to spin and add color to what we're going to see. If security footage typically isn't great footage, so there's going to be, and you're not going to hear the audio, most likely. You're not going to hear audio that goes along with the footage. So that's where the narrative comes in. But let's just say, for example, for sake of argument, this footage puts Punk in a bad light. It puts Jungle Boy Jack Perry in a good light. His fucking name. I can't believe they're spending it on this guy. But let's just say it puts Punk in a bad light. So what? What does that do for anybody?
Right.
It does nothing. Or what if it's ambiguous? What if you see it and other than the commentary that you're going to get from the Bucks, you can't really decide for yourself one way or the other? What does it get you? Same thing. Or what if people look at it and go, well, this is all bullshit. I can't believe that Punk got fired over that. What does that get you? Nothing. There's no upside here. There's nothing that's going to happen that's positive. You're living in the past and reliving an incident that is a reflection of your horrible leadership and lack of management, Tony. You created that backstage environment by not being a leader, by not having management in place, by allowing this kind of thing to go on, because this isn't like the first and only time. It's just, I don't know. It's the most bizarre thing. I don't know that, I've said as hard as I can be on AEW, I point out their lack of storytelling ability or lack of ability to even format a television show, just fundamental shit. I talk about those things all the time. In the back of my mind, I'm hoping that eventually somebody's going to go, okay, let's just try what he says. Let's just put a little more emphasis on story. Let's go buy a book and read about what it takes to build a great story and see if we can do it. Now, I'm hoping that a light bulb is going to go off in somebody's head and they're going to, maybe we can, I got an idea. Let's try this. Because what we're doing here at AEW is not working. You're not only not growing your audience, you can't hold on to the one you started out with. They're leaving in droves. We had on Wise Choices, Ant Evans, YouTube expert, guy that built the UFC's YouTube channel, as well as others, knows this shit. We talked about where AEW is on YouTube and where it's been over the last 6 months. You know where it's been? It's been falling off a fucking cliff. So Dave Meltzer likes to say, well, you can't judge by ratings, and the company's way more successful than the ratings reflect because, fewer people are watching television. No shit, Sherlock. That's been a conversation that's been going on in the television industry for, I don't know, 12 years. or more. It's not news, Dave. You don't have to study anything, Dave. It's right there in your fucking face. But guess what? Even if that was the excuse that people want to buy into, because when it comes to AEW, a lot of people want to buy into excuses and spin and ridiculous ways of doing math. But even if you wanted to believe it's true and those ratings are going down because fewer people are watching television. Okay, well, what about YouTube? Is that a dying medium, Dave? Is it an outlier for some reason? It's not. It's just another indicator like live ticket sales. Ticket sales, AEW is having a hard time selling 3,500 tickets for Dynamite. I mean, come on. It's impossible for me to think of ways that they can do things more incorrectly and miss the mark any more than they already have. But they keep coming up with the shit. Like, I don't know, let's show footage from the security cam at Wembley that happened, what? Is that 6 months ago?
More.
5 years ago? However long ago that was? Who cares? It's history. And all it's going to do is make you look bad. The question is, how bad is it going to look in how many different ways? It's just bizarro to me. Bizarre.
Well, we're going to talk about it. I'm sure later this week we're going to be talking about it, but it isn't.
What do you think, Conrad? Do you think I'm wrong? Am I overreacting?
I don't see the upside. I mean, it feels like an on your heels move. I saw somebody say, and I know you're going to get hot when I say this, but I saw somebody say this feels like a WCW move. And let me extrapolate what I think that meant. What I think the poster was intending. There was a time where the WWF was on their heels and WCW was kicking their ass so royally. I mean, you couldn't tell which way it was up. And then fast forward, when that momentum turned, it turned quickly and kind of hard. And there was a time where when that momentum turned, it just felt like almost nothing WCW could do could gain any ground back. And I think that is where this move sort of feels like.
I would agree. I would agree with that. That is an accurate observation on the poster's part, if that was the intent of the meaning, and certainly on your analysis of it, because it was true. There was a time when I felt like we could do no wrong.
Yes.
Absolutely do no wrong. And for long, there was a point where we felt like we could absolutely do no right. Once you lose momentum, you've heard me say it a million times, creating momentum is a lot easier than maintaining it. Maintaining momentum is a real challenge. Very, very difficult. And then once you feel that momentum slip through your fingers and you know it, you can feel it in the marrow of your bones, in your core muscles. You can feel it. And then you feel like, fuck, there's nothing I can do to turn this around. Observation.
I don't want that to be the case. I am pulling for AEW. I think wrestling is a better place with AEW, but I gotta think, I gotta hope, I gotta cross my fingers. This is all some way to reintroduce Jack Perry and leverage something that really happened to add to his credibility and his presentation. And interestingly enough, Jack Perry's wrestling here in America this Friday night. It's the Windy City Riot. There's only about 400 tickets still available. This is a New Japan show. It's a big deal for New Japan to be here in America. And Jack Perry's on the card. So we'll see what happens. We'll also see what happened over the weekend with, and I know you missed this because you were traveling and had all kinds of family stuff going on, but I want to encourage you, go out of your way to watch a Mark Briscoe video. It was a last minute hype for the pay-per-view. He was going to be challenging Eddie Kingston for the Ring of Honor World Championship. You've said your piece about that title and about Eddie Kingston, but this story, Eric, is one that I think you could get behind. As I understand it, it was Eddie who discovered through a little bit of research, because he's a wrestling nerd junkie like all of us, that it was 11 years ago to the day that Mark's brother Jay won the Ring of Honor World title for the very first time. And 11 years later to the day, just a couple years removed from his tragic passing, Mark Briscoe became the man and won the world title for the very first time. But the video that got us there, Eric, was his brother's words in his head. He was thinking about quitting, but he kept thinking about when his brother said, and it would cut to that. And I was like, dude, this is as good of a hype video. This is like a movie. And I realized that it's not on the scale of the Cody Rhodes story, but I will say wrestling storytelling was on full display this weekend, whether you're a Mark Briscoe fan or a Cody Rhodes fan. And I just want to echo something that we said at the top of the show. Monday Night Raw tonight is the highest grossing Monday Night Raw of all time. Over 18,000 people are in there. They set the NXT record over the weekend for Stand and Deliver, the most attended NXT show in history. Not one, but two record nights at WrestleMania as far as gate, as far as attendance, as far as merch, as far as sponsorship. Wrestling right now, man, more specifically, WWE right now feels like they are hotter than ever. How long do you think this momentum can be sustained? And when do you start to worry about what's next for Cody Rhodes? Because if I've learned anything from hanging out with you, besides more than, less than, different than, is that sometimes when the Hulkster would stroke that old Fu Manchu and want to know, and then what? That's where the heavy lifting begins.
Yep.
What would you expect? Is this momentum sustainable? Are we going to see some pushback from the WWE audience? Because wrestling fans, if nothing else, Daniel Bryan has proved us they're fickle. We want something new. We want something new. We want something new. We want something new. Oh man, show me my old favorites. Where do you think this shakes out with Cody? Who would be the perfect first opponent for him? Is it Gunther? Is it Brock? Is it someone? I mean, the rumor and innuendo is that Jacob Fatu is recently signed. Will it be him from the Bloodline? What do you think is next for Cody? If you had to guess.
God, it's hard. Let me back up just a little bit. Here's the challenge for Cody going forward. And this is got nothing to do with Cody himself. It's the audience's appetite for baby faces. How long can a babyface champion stay at the top? You've got a shit ton of heels like that are really over, lined up and ready to go, as Hulk Hogan did, for example. You can get some mileage out of that. But that'll be the challenge. Who's now long term? Short term, I have no idea because there's so many different options. You can go one in a million ways, right? With the roster that exists currently in WWE. That's relatively speaking the easiest part. Hard part will be 6 months from now or a year from now. Is it Rock? Is Rock in this thing kind of like for real? Or was Rock really only interested in, or able, I should say, in participating in this WrestleMania? That's a big question because there's a story there with Rock.
No doubt.
And that for Cody, that would be an amazing opportunity. Cody's stock will go that much higher if he were in a long-term program with The Rock. But we don't know if Rock's what his plans are. So if it's not The Rock, I think it's not a concern. But what I'm aware of is that Cody can burn through those heels pretty quickly. Go back to Seth. Do they find a way to weave it around back with Seth? Perhaps. I just think match-wise, that could be interesting opportunity as well. A million different ways. I don't know. But the one thing I am concerned with is how the lifespan of a babyface, particularly like Cody, because Cody is like a throwback, in my opinion.
Yeah.
He's an old school babyface. He's about as pure of a babyface as I've seen in, like, I don't know, feels like forever at least. So that'll be really interesting to see how long audience stays with him as that pure as the driven snow babyface. I don't know. See.
I, for one, am looking forward to it. I'm ready to see Gunther challenge in Germany. I'm ready to see Cody take on all comers. I want to see him and Drew. I mean, there's going to be a lot of really, really fun stuff in this coming year. And especially since we know that The Rock seemingly is in this for the long haul. I mean, as I understand it, he's going to work on the Smashing Machine movie right now. But that does lend itself to he's going to be available later in the year. And you got to think that spear, that's going to mean something. So stay tuned for that. We woke up to news this morning from Brandon Thurston. There's a release that WrestleNomics has released from TKO and Endeavor. There's two separate agreements where Endeavor is buying $142.6 million and $150 million for a total of around $293 million of stock back from Vince McMahon. So Brandon says, by my count, after the transaction closes on Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively, Vince will have 8,021,405 remaining TKO shares. And by my math, Vince will be down to owning about 4.7% of the stock. What do you think about this news? I mean, it was sort of referenced at the top of the program over the weekend. Hey, this is a whole new era. You heard Paul Heyman even say on Hall of Fame, this is the Paul Levesque era. I heard Stephanie try to say, this is the Triple H era. This is the Paul Levesque era. Josh Nason over on Twitter says, this is especially notable once McMahon is confirmed to be below the 5% threshold required to file beneficial ownership documentation with the SEC. It feels as if we're scrubbing my man's name off. What say you?
Sure feels that way.
Right?
Sure feels that way. And there's some, man, we found out last week that TKO is taking their company private again. This could have something to do with that. There's some interesting chatter, and I'll have a little more detail maybe by the time we do Wise Choices, because I'll be doing that live from Australia at some point this week. So if you haven't subscribed to 83weeks.com, go now, subscribe, 83weeks.com, hit the notification buttons. This is the YouTube channel where we improv. We react daily, a couple times a week, depending on what's going on in the business. So it's not a set schedule. It's not like Strictly Business used to be, or 83 Weeks, our podcast is. This is something that will come at you depending on what's going on in the world. And we're going to talk about it. I may have a little bit more information, but there's some interesting things going on at Comcast right now. So there could be bigger moves and bigger plays taking place. I want to do a little more digging before I talk about it too much, because, that's the way you should do it. We'll see. A lot of moving pieces. Lots.
We will see. We're going to see what happens tonight on Monday Night Raw. We're going to see what happens on Wednesday with the All-In footage. And I'm sure we'll be back later this week with another live YouTube show. In case you missed it, Strictly Business is no more. So this will be the only podcast, the one you're listening to right now on 83 Weeks. This will be the only episode that you get this week from our feed on the RSS. But for all things Eric Bischoff, look no further than the YouTube channel. That's 83weeks.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell, and you just don't want to miss when we're going live. I mean, you'll be able to ask questions right there with Eric Bischoff. And we appreciate you guys showing up and showing out early with us on a Monday morning, the Monday after WrestleMania. We got a ton of great questions. Let's rifle through a few of these, Eric, and then I know we got to get on the road. Josh Inney wants to know, any thoughts on opening both nights with championship matches instead of a build? See, starting off hot seemed to work this time.
No, it worked. It worked. And I guess it gets a lot easier when you've got great stories and the audience is with it and with each match. So it's working. Sometimes you have to bust up the paradigm and start over and try something new. And if it's working, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of it.
George Slade says, do you think this will be the biggest Dusty finish of all time and Cody loses the belt tonight on Raw?
Wow, that's so dark. Come on, George. No need to be so dark. No, that's not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Travis Medway says, as it stands right now, Raw has 2 world champions on their roster. Cause you see Reigns taking Damian Priest title tonight and starting a new dominant reign. No, I don't see that. No. And I think the draft is right around the corner. So that'll handle itself, right?
I think no idea, no inside information, like you always say. I'll be surprised if we don't see Roman take a break for a while.
Yeah, agree.
He needs a little dose of the absence makes the heart grow fonder factor. Not a lot, just a little shot, because he's been great. And I know he's not been as active of a champion as a lot of people. Roman Reigns, the character, has been in our face now since what, 2017?
You give him a break. I'm with you.
Give the character a break. Make the audience want to see him return, especially if you're going to go with him and Rock down the road, anything like that. Give it a little bit of a rest, because honestly, the audience needs a rest now because their emotions were so high, and WWE did such a phenomenal job of maintaining that momentum and nurturing that arc, and they were so disciplined, paid off. Now you've got to let the audience go, oh, what's next? But you got to give them a little. I think Roman would be best served just to have some time away from the cameras.
Josh says, how about the championship t-shirts for the winners? Like when teams win championships. Love that. You can see these shirts, by the way, at shopwrestlingmerch.com. They've got great new shirts for everyone who won new hardware, whether it's Cody, whether it's Damian Priest, whether it's Rhea Ripley, whether it's Bayley. It definitely feels like somebody just won the national championship or the Super Bowl. They've got the shirts immediately available, and they're for you right now at shopwrestlingmerch.com. It costs absolutely nothing, but supports the show here. Josh says, thoughts on the show this Wednesday that peels back the curtain and they talk about the creative shift when the fans pressured for the Cody story. Is this too much exposure of the business? You know, you and I talked about this in real time as it was happening in late January and early February. And WWE actually acknowledged it, leaned into it, and said, no, this wasn't the plan. We were going with Rock and Roman, but the fans responded and we answered. Are you surprised they're having that put together and ready by this Wednesday already?
No. WWE is phenomenal when it comes to this kind of thing. If they put their minds to it, they'll be working 24/7 and cranking out magic. Not surprised at all.
So there you go, boys and girls. We're looking forward to a big week. We're going to see the documentary on Wednesday. We're going to roll that beautiful All In footage on Wednesday. And tonight, a new era of Monday Night Raw kicks off with our new champion, not the tribal chief, but the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. We'll be back later this week talking the latest and greatest, and it'll be live. Join us at 83weeks.com. And by the way, you can get all these shows early and ad-free over at adfreeshows.com. Appreciate everybody showing up and being part of our live studio audience. I saw Chris, who I think had a chance to catch WrestleMania, and David and PJ and Coach Keith and so many others. Thanks everybody for hopping on early on a Monday after WrestleMania. And, man, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you sooner rather than later, right here on 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. Tax season is here, which means you've received or are expecting that tax refund any day now, and you're thinking about what to spend it on. How about a new home? With SaveWithConrad.com, we're helping renters become homeowners every single day, and it's more affordable than you think. You don't need perfect credit. You don't need a huge down payment. In fact, you may not need a down payment at all. At SaveWithConrad.com, we take the stress out of the home buying process. We'll determine your buying power. We'll even help you find a realtor. And unlike the banks, we don't say no. We say not yet, but here's how. So if you're not ready right now, we'll get you on a plan to be ready. Stop throwing your money away, paying someone else's mortgage with your rent, and start the path towards owning your own home today at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 32416, equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.